Well, welcome in, everybody. It is another episode of Neurologically Speaking. We're here with my friend Siren, who's going to talk all about the conditions that she's an expert on tonight. You there? Oh, not yet.
Am I?
There we are. All right, how you doing, Siren?
Hey!
How are you? You good?
I am.
You are? Good. All right, cool. Just going to make sure we're adjusted on the sound volumes here. Yep, we're good. Okay, cool. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Hi, my name is SyrinHarte. Um, I am epileptic. I have POTS. I have something known as Chiari malformation type 1, also known as Arnold Chiari,
Okay.
and also abdominal migraines.
All right. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and start at the beginning and tell or educate us, please. We're waiting to learn all about these different conditions you live with every day.
So, okay, pardon me. So, I was diagnosed with tonic-clonic seizures when I was 15, 16, something like that.
Got it.
Um, and that was probably that's what stands out the strongest for me. It went back even farther than that, but that's the one that stands out the strongest for me.
Yeah.
Um, for the
Tonic-clonic seizures being like grand mal seizures is
yeah,
what people
yeah,
might know those as. Yeah.
yeah.
Those
That's
would be
the
whole body convulsions and stuff like that. Yes.
yep, yep. And I wanted to say this a little bit sooner, but
Take
for
your time. Go
anybody
ahead.
who is listening or is watching, I will be posting. I've got a bunch of links up, and I'll be posting them both in the Discord if that is okay with you, and on my Twitter page in the pinned chat,
Go
or
right
yeah,
ahead.
in the pinned chat on my Twitter page later for anybody who would like to check them out later.
Yep. In our
Um,
Discord's fine too. No worries.
Awesome. So just a couple of different places so that way anybody can check them out later. And I'll try and make mention of that as I remember tonight. So that way anybody who drops in later can find them whenever.
That's thoughtful of you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. And that way, yeah, if people come in from wherever, they can find it. But yeah. So tonic-clonic seizures, started getting those when I was 15, 16, and my mom swears if you ask her, she'll swear up and down that I had them far sooner. And that's why she started taking me to the doctor when I was much younger.
That's understandable.
Um,
Yeah. Usually the kind
yeah,
of thing a parent would take a kid to the doctor for. Yes.
yeah. And I've been in and out of the doctor basically as far as I can remember. I don't remember a time when I wasn't in the doctor consistently.
Oh man.
Yeah. Um, but when I was in the doctor a lot younger, I had MRIs and I had CTs and I had EEGs. Stream audio is a little too low and a guest will need a little boost
Yeah, I got it. I
also.
got it. I
Okay.
got it.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that wasn't a me thing.
Nope.
Okay.
That's all me.
But when I was in there when I was a lot younger and getting EEGs and CTs and all the usual, the usual things a kid gets, they ended up finding something called Chiari malformation, which there is actually 4 different types of Chiari malformation if you search that. I have what's known as Chiari malformation type 1, or what commonly comes up if you research Chiari malformation is it's Arnold Chiari. But that is, oops, where did it go? Chiari malformations, they're structural defects in the base of the skull and cerebellum, and it's in part of the brain that controls balance, and normally in the cerebellum, and part of the brain stem sits above the opening at the skull that allows the spinal cord to pass through it. And it's where part of the cerebellum extends below that and into the upper spinal canal, and it's called a Chiari malformation.
Got it. Okay.
So
Hmm.
But I mean, there's all sorts of symptoms of it. I mean, it can cause neck pain, hearing or balance issues, muscle weakness or numbness, dizziness, difficulty swallowing or speaking. That's the one that I am most familiar with, and that's the one that most, because I have a couple people that I know of that have this as well. That's the one that I am most familiar with them having. Ringing or buzzing in the ears, tinnitus. That's the other one I know of.
Got it.
Insomnia, depression, problems with hand coordination and fine motor skills. That's the another one.
Yeah, the cerebellum and that whole brainstem like area has a lot of different functions routed through it for sure. So I mean, small
Mhm.
malformations there can cause pretty widespread difficulties.
Yeah. And so the tricky thing with Chiari malformation is because of where it sits um, in the brain and on the brain stem and in your neck and all that. Um, it's very hard to find when you're laying down, which is I'm sure you're aware how most MRIs are done.
Oh, I see. It's hard to like image it when you're laying down in a machine, like an
it's
MRI
it,
machine.
it's hard to get a proper image because it kind of compresses back up to where it should be when you're
Yeah.
laying down.
Yeah. That's okay, yeah.
Exactly. So, but the other problem is insurance. It's because of how insurance works, it's very hard to get a proper it's or I shouldn't say proper. It's very hard to get insurance to say, "Hey, please approve this very, very expensive and very, very hard to find upright MRI machine."
Yeah, yeah. So we can get a proper image for this patient whose quality of life might
Exactly.
be improved if you do so. Yeah, can you
Well, yeah,
please insurance companies find it in the goodness of your
yeah.
heart to like, fund this, please?
Because quality of life is not a life or death situation,
No.
so they're not going to say, "Please."
No, no. Mm.
MRIs are hard enough to get to approve as is.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Oh, it's a running theme of
So
many interviews here is just working with insurance. Yeah.
so, but
So
yeah.
yeah, you had the MRI and what results came back?
So I had the MRI when I was, probably less than 10. I had to have been less than 10, and I don't even remember what it was for. When you're that old, you don't even remember. It's just you say, "Hey, we're
Uh,
going to the doctor to get this thing," and
yeah, you have to lay
they
in this tube for a
yeah,
couple hours and yeah.
lay in this tube and do not move. And that was basically how it went, and they're like, "Hey, don't move, and if you don't move, you get, like, a Pokemon card pack," or something like that, is I'm pretty sure how it went down.
Pog.
And so, they're like, "Oh, by the way, you have this thing," and that was how it went, and mom was like, "Well, I knew there was something wrong with you." Like, not in that way, but, like, in a
No.
victory kind of way, because she's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I knew there was something wrong, but"
Yeah, in a like I knew that there was something going on and I'm glad that we put a name to it finally. But it's,
Exactly.
it's a relief. It is, yeah.
She was like, "I knew there was something wrong, but what does this mean?" kind of way.
Yeah, like
But
what the heck is this and how do we
exactly.
tackle it? How do we fix it?
Exactly.
That's always the next step is like how do we treat this? How do we fix this? How do we get back to 100% normal, right?
Yeah.
But with a lot of
Yeah.
as with a lot of these things, there yeah, isn't always a straightforward path for that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But so from there, it just kind of it was like, well, we have to monitor it and we have to make sure that it doesn't get any worse. We have to make sure that it doesn't get any larger. And at that point it became a, well, do we have the money for this? Because MRIs are, they're not cheap, they're not free.
Yeah.
And if it's not a life or death situation, what do we do? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess.
So
It shouldn't be that kind of thing, but yeah.
yeah,
I see what
no,
you're saying.
but
I see what you're saying.
that's the unfortunate situation.
Indeed.
But moving forward from that, unfortunately for a lot of people with Chiari though, they really can be very impacting. I'm very lucky, like I am very blessed and I'm very lucky that mine is not as impairing as it is for some people. There are a lot of walks out there to raise money for, Chiari awareness. There's a lot of stuff out there to, raise awareness for the condition, to raise money for the condition. Like, I mean, there are, I think they're called, yeah. But I have a friend who actually went through, I think it's called decompression surgery, is where you get the when you get the surgery for Chiari. Um, she has a lot of she has a lot of issues similar to what I have, and watching her present as similarly as I do, and then having the surgery, and she got it from someone who said they knew exactly what they were doing. They were an affordable doctor, and then they ended up doing a poor job,
Yeah, always the risk of that.
or it was, and it's a toss up between, did they do a poor job, or did she not recover, or did she just not bounce back, and
Yeah.
her headaches are twice as bad as they ever were before, or she it's rough.
Yeah, it
And that
is. It is.
that's always one of the risks that people take when they get Chiari surgery, and that's always one of the things to weigh. And thankfully, the neurosurgeon that I talked to when I was, and this leads up to the, by the way, this does lead up to, for anybody watching out there and anybody listening out there who was wondering where the migraines come in, this is totally where the migraines come in.
Mm,
Fun fact, all of the neurological stuff that I have is totally connected. And that's why this is so tricky and so fun. And by fun, I mean
right.
so sarcastically.
Absolutely, yeah. So as you were saying, that's always kind of one of the risks of
Yeah.
any sort of central nervous system surgery is there's
Yeah.
complications, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But,
It's not
thankfully
an exact science or an exact
no,
surgery or anything like that
no.
yet. It simply isn't.
Um, Thankfully, the neurosurgeon that I saw, um, he was able to look at me and he was able to say, he's like, "Okay, do you have this, this, and this issues?" And I'm like, "Mm, maybe." I don't know, because again, the problems with neurological things is so much stuff overlaps, and it's hard to tell is, pardon me, is A the cause, is B the cause, is C the cause, or is it completely, something random?
Yep. Yeah, peel the
And
layers of the onion away and get to the root cause there, you know?
to someone out there who asked, sorry, I missed the beginning. What was the migraines? Were there any indication of cluster headaches? No, I have abdominal migraines. I get migraines that do not have any auras, unfortunately. And I have had migraines that had no auras since about the time I had seizures, which was about 15, 16. So,
Got it.
yeah. In fact, they
Those are the
used to
best kind,
think,
the ones you can't feel
yeah.
coming on. They
Oh,
just
no,
come out of
those are fun.
nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to they used to think that my migraines were a precursor to my seizures, which is even more fun because I would get no auras to my migraines, and then I would get a migraine before my seizure, so I'd get no warning for either of them.
What a fun
So,
aura to have. By the way, for
yeah.
everybody wondering what we're talking about when we say auras, we're not talking about like a mystical experience or anything like that. Auras are kind of the usually sensory precursor to either a migraine or a seizure. Some people,
Yes.
there's some, if you get them, not everybody does. Not everybody gets a
No,
warning to these kind of
no.
things. But if you get them, they're often pretty consistent and you can know it's going to be something visual or something olfactory or something like that before you have a migraine or before you have a seizure, which can serve to give you a little bit of a heads up before those things happen, which is I guess nice. The upside to it, but not everybody has those things.
Yeah, yeah. Though yeah, auras are really hard to describe to somebody who hasn't had them. Yeah, they are. My mom used to get auras for her migraines, and she tried really hard to explain them to me when I was a teenager. And I used to be really, really confused. She'd be like, Don't you get auras?" She's like, "I get like flashing twinkly lights." And I'm like, "What the heck do you mean flashy twinkly lights?" I'm like, "Are you
Yep.
seeing like Christmas lights?"
Not
I'm like,
always, yeah.
Are you losing your mind? Are you seeing like Christmas lights or something?" I'm like, "I think you're like losing it, mom." And sure enough, I'm like, I got no auras, so I never knew what she meant.
Yep, because not everybody gets them.
Because not everybody gets them. So I'm gonna post a few links in chat really quick.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
But while I'm doing that, I'm gonna keep on talking. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. So we were talking about how my Chiari malformation was totally linked to the abdominal migraine thing. So,
And can you clarify what you mean by when you say abdominal migraine for those who may not know that?
so, and that's what I was getting to. So, abdominal
Oh, sorry.
migraine is a type of migraine. And actually, and this is probably a term that a lot of people haven't heard either because it's kind of a rare thing and I hadn't heard of it either, but there's something called cyclic vomiting syndrome and I'm going to post that link in Discord right now too.
Never heard of that before. It sounds like a
Yeah,
jolly old time.
it totally is. But abdominal migraine, it's just a type of migraine. It's something that most people say that kids get. So they explain that kids get cyclic vomiting and that they'll grow out of it and but they don't always. So I apparently didn't grow out of it.
Hmm.
Fun.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So what is that?
so it's the exact cause of it is unknown. It's said that nausea and vomiting are the main features of it, obviously. I mean, they say that the primary organ affected is the brain and the symptoms of the disorder develop due to abnormalities. Wow, I can't talk. And the normal interaction between the brain and the gut. So,
Which neuroscientists are like just now starting to bite into the whole gut brain axis.
yep. A lot of the wow, totally just blanked. That was cool.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Not your fault, not your fault. A lot of it is has to do with the autonomic nervous system type stuff where it's like the syncope and the, you know, blood pressure and the just generally get too excited and bad things happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that was basically me all growing up, all through middle school. If I got too excited for something, next thing you know, I would be out the next day of school for a migraine.
Mm. Jeez.
And if I didn't watch it when I got older and went into teenage years, I am spacing like crazy. This is great. I'm trying. Uh,
No worries. It's all good. Just take your time. No rush. No biggie at all.
gotta love pots.
Yeah. No, it's,
Uh,
it's all good. Take your time.
irony, irony.
So you were
But
saying that you might have an exciting day at school and then be out the next day.
yeah, so things get if I'd get too excited, if I'd get too worked up, and it wasn't like if I get too anxious, it would always be if I got too excited, like looking forward to something that like I would be so excited for something that I would make myself sick.
Gosh, what a like a
Yeah.
what a thing to just make karma seem like a total bitch, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so excited for this
And
thing tomorrow, and now I can't go because I got sick
I
because I was
remember
excited about it.
one time when I was in high school, I was in one of the extracurriculars I was in, we were going to take a field trip and we were going to go like visit the one of like the bonuses of that extracurricular was we got to go and like visit the schools, like the younger schools and like basically show off why we were so cool and why they wanted to grow up and be us, basically. And well, because I mean that's what they that's I because I remember them doing that when we were that age, and like the high schoolers coming around and like performing. So yeah, and basically getting them excited to be in high school. And I got so excited about doing that when I was in high school that I gave myself a migraine. And I got sick, and then not like probably not a few weeks later, like maybe a few months later, I ended up having seizures. Dude, when I had seizures, it was probably like it was one of those like it felt like somebody had a voodoo doll saying, "Well, there's this, and what else can we give her? And we got one of these, and let's do that too." Because it was
Yeesh.
like finals week, and I was learning how to drive, and all my friends were learning how to drive, and like I was trying out for like the musical, and
Yeah, you're trying to live a normal teenage life, and then you also had to learn how to deal
and
with having
like
epilepsy. Yeah.
and like
Jeez.
and I was like there was this guy that I really liked at the time that I was like trying to talk to, and it was like, sure, okay, let's just give it all at once, and like, well, that's a little bit too much. We might have overdone it. Screw it, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it wasn't fine. What's the worst that's gonna happen? Well, she had a seizure. Okay, that was probably the worst that could have happened.
Yeah. Jeez. So maybe I feel like it's maybe your body's just trying to be really excited along with you, like super
Yeah.
excited with
Oh,
you.
oh yeah, I was totally excited. So excited, so
Yeah.
excited.
About all these wonderful things that happen in your life, all the stressful events and all that stuff,
Oh,
all
oh
those
yeah.
possibly good things. So, wow.
So yeah. So we're gonna okay. So in along with all the stuff that I posted in there, I'm also gonna post about tech pots. We're gonna put pots in there, and we're also gonna put okay. So we're also on a serious note, real quick. We're also gonna talk about SUDEP, which is I've lost my okay. SUDEP is sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, and not a lot of people know about it. And it's extremely scary for those of us who have epilepsy. It is extremely tragic for those of us who both have epilepsy and those of us who have whose family is, who have family that are epileptic and whatnot. Um, on a slightly related but unrelated note, I don't know if any of you guys and girls and non-binary people out there watch The Descendants, but one of the stars actually just passed away very, very recently. He was only 22,
Mm,
but he passed away from SUDEP.
no.
And yeah, so it it is terrifying for me because it's even the Epilepsy Foundation. It if you go on their website, and I'm going to link the page right now. Um,
Sure.
but even on their page, it says they don't know the exact cause, but their best speculation is that it occurs for different reasons for different people, but they can best speculate that there is evidence of a seizure, particularly a generalized tonic-clonic, occurring prior to death. And those are the kind that I have. So for me, that's a very scary thing. And so I just like to tell people about it when I can. But
Yeah. So that's something that I think really comes up very often when we talk about epilepsy or seizures is like you can actually die from those. Normally
yes,
it's portrayed as okay, a person had a seizure, then they go to the
yes,
hospital, they rest,
yes,
and they're okay afterwards. It's not
yes,
always the case. No, like any
yep,
person's like
yep,
next seizure could be their last one, which is why
yes,
it's really, really
yes,
important to get those under control.
yes. That's the other thing is so like random soapbox moment. Like not only can you pass away from SUDEP like that, which is like so best speculation is a lot is so sometimes you can like best speculation is my this is me speculating. This is not Epilepsy Foundation. So
That's fine. I want to hear from you today. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So best speculation is sometimes people can, suffocate in their sleep. Sometimes people can, do this is gross, but people can choke on their vomit,
Yeah.
because sometimes people do that. People
Yep.
when you have a seizure, it's not a pretty thing, guys
It's
and
not.
gals and
And one
non-binary people out there.
just like if somebody passes out drunk for some reason or something like that, best to have
Yup.
them on their sides if they're having a seizure,
Yup.
for that very reason. Just
Yes.
the other day, actually, at the school I work at, a student there randomly had a tonic-clonic or grand mal seizure just out of the blue,
Yup.
like no history of them or
Yup.
anything. So
Yup.
yeah,
And that's
one of the
and
first
that's
things I
super
did when I saw
common.
it is, yeah, just to randomly have one, yeah. Um,
Yep.
but just the first thing I did was put him on his side because like there's the danger of choking, like that's a thing that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing
Yeah.
that while we're talking about this, one of the myths around this I think is that you can swallow your tongue. That's not a thing. You don't actually do that.
No.
Yeah, that's not actually a thing that can happen during seizures or any time for that matter. So
Thank you for, like, correcting that, by the way.
no worries.
Uh, common misconception,
Yeah.
like, by the way.
Yeah. So like don't
Um,
and it's, I think like one of the things that they would always show is like put something in their mouth to like bite
please
on. Like
don't.
don't do that. Don't put shit in their mouth.
Please don't.
Don't put
Please,
things in their mouth. They're already having enough trouble breathing. Put them on their side. Let them
please,
get through it. Don't put stuff in their mouth. Don't do it.
please, whatever you do, if you or a loved one or whatever or whoever see somebody having a seizure and nobody knows what to do, like first off, like check and see if like they have a okay, I'm gonna like this is probably not the proper protocol, but please check and see if they have like a health awareness bracelet first,
Yes.
or if their loved ones are around and they have a health awareness bracelet first, because some people don't actually want you to call 911. Some people cannot afford the ambulance ride.
Okay.
Like
Good to
this
know.
is me. Yeah, I actually don't want like me personally, I don't want the ambulance called for me because I
Okay.
have had nothing but trouble with the ERs.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Like, I've actually had nothing but trouble with ambulances, and some people snap out of it fast enough that they can get themselves taken care of. But by that time, yeah, but by the time that they actually can get that all sorted out, some like 5 people have called 911.
And that's
So,
that's yeah. I first of all, thank you for mentioning that because that's not
yeah,
something I would
no.
even consider. Like,
Yeah, but by the time that, like but okay, but by the time that, like, they've gotten themselves sorted in, like, that 3 minutes, we'll say 3 minutes because that's probably about average. Like,
yeah,
between 2 to 5, 3 minutes is average. Um, that that's all sorted. Like 5 nearby people have called 911 and then like an ambulance is on the way. And if you are not in your right mind by the time the ambulance shows up, you are obligated to go
yep. And then
and
you're
you
on the
have
hook
to pay.
for you're on the hook
Yep.
for however much that
Yep.
cost.
And then you have to pay. And fun fact, I have learned this the hard way as a very, very poor college student that unless it is like you are physically like bleeding out and going to die on the spot, like in the exact moment, they do not consider ambulance rides emergent.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, unless you are physically going to die, and even then they will fight you on it. Like
Yeah.
we actually learned that on while talking to so one of the things I did want to talk about today, along with like making some of these conditions more aware, is one of the things that I've learned. Like so one of the big things that I learned is what is and is not like important and like from an insurance standpoint. Like according to insurance, like apparently ambulance rides are not important and they're like, "Nah, you can pay for that."
Yeah, apparently not. Like the bare I mean, insurance companies give the bare minimum of care.
Yeah.
They'll pay
Yeah.
for the bare minimum. So getting you to the hospital safely, not a concern. No, not a
Now
concern.
that but at the time I was not like you can okay, so someone says there's an old wives' tale that someone will choke on your tongue.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
No,
There's also the
we can't
biting
put
of
that.
your tongue such damaging the teeth thing. You can actually do that though.
But putting something in your mouth is going to make that
Fun fact,
a
you
bigger
can actually
possibility.
do those things.
Yeah, that's going to make it a bigger
But
possibility putting something in
still
your
don't
mouth
stick
though.
anything in somebody's mouth.
Don't do that. No. No. Because if there's a one like there's the possibility they could choke on that or obstruct
Um,
the airway, but also like if they're at risk of hurting their teeth or biting their tongue, they can bite your finger off. Like you can damage your own hand putting something in someone's mouth too. So just don't do that. Don't put this. Don't do it when someone's having a seizure. Don't put stuff in their mouth. Does not help. But yeah, it's unfortunate the way that the ambulance thing works and with insurance and whatnot, because it kind of like the first thing on your mind when you're going through a medical emergency shouldn't be, can I pay for an ambulance? It should be, can we get to a hospital in time, you know? But the fact that you might have to pay for that later and all that disincentivizes people from using ambulances in the first place, which makes it more dangerous or less likely they'll get to the hospital. And just kind of complicates the whole thing, unfortunately. But you know, like, what do we, what can we do about that? We don't get to say what insurance companies pay for and don't pay for, unfortunately.
yeah,
Yep.
but okay. So where was I? Where was I?
You were talking about when you were in college.
When I was in college. Okay. So that was That was a trippy time period. I hate to say it, that was probably the haziest time period. Mostly just because that was when okay, going backtracking a bit for a second
Please
here.
do so. It's fine. Tell your story however you need to tell it.
So that was when I learned the most about myself and when I learned the most about how to take care of myself as like a whole overall person.
Okay.
Um because I did some stuff that I probably shouldn't have. Pardon me. Like at one point I was uninsured. Just not because I didn't have to be, but because of kind of sheer stupidity.
Yeah. And also
Because
money, I'm sure. Like it's costly. So
I mean, I was still young enough to be on my parents' insurance. But I was living in a state separate from both of them.
which
And
complicates things, unfortunately, and it shouldn't.
yep, yep, it did. I was living in a state separate from both of them, going to a school separate in a state separate from both of them, and I just honestly wasn't paying attention because I didn't want to. Like,
Okay.
simple as that. Like,
You
I
want to
mean,
you wanted to go out and have a normal life? How dare you?
I really, you know what? I really did.
What the
I
heck? How come on, like, what?
it's
I'm joking, by the way, you should totally
no,
be able
no,
to
no,
do
no.
that.
No, no, no. I mean, I'm being serious here. Like, I was really frustrated because I just wanted to have a normal college experience, but been I had had epilepsy for, 5, 6, 7 years at that point, and I was mad.
Yeah, I get it. You wanted to go out and, like, try to live without that for one, does not pay attention to
I
that and have a normal
just
college life. I get it, yeah.
I had I had lived most of my teen life and most of my adult life, and I knew that I was gonna have to have my 21st birthday. I didn't even know if I was gonna be able to have a 21st birthday
Yeah,
because I had epilepsy, and I was mad, and I just wanted to be normal.
that's completely
And
understandable.
so one of the things I'm going to say to anybody out there that is listening and that has the same or similar things that I do is don't do that. Like,
Yeah,
don't cut off your nose to spite your face,
yeah,
please.
yeah,
Um, it's totally okay. There is totally it's totally okay to this is I'm gonna get shit from all of my doctors if they ever hear this, but it's totally okay to, like, party and have fun within reason.
yep, it should be.
I I did, and I
Good,
have all of this shit, and I did stupid things, and I turned 21, and I drank, and I partied, and within reason,
good.
and I had fun, and I did normal things, but
Do you regret it?
no, I do not, not
Good.
one bit,
Damn right, you
not
shouldn't.
one bit.
Good. Good on you.
But I also was the first one to grab, like, Gatorade for all of my friends, and I was the first one to, the last one to make sure that all of my friends had Gatorade, and the last one to make sure that, like, all of my friends got home safe, and, like, the last one to make sure that, like, everybody was, in bed if they had too much and, like, had a place to crash, and make sure that, like, I had enough bottles of water and that I was drinking enough water. So, I also made sure that I took care of myself. That was the big thing, and that will
Yeah,
always be the big thing. Like, if we have these conditions and we aren't functioning like society says is normal, quote unquote, air quotes everywhere, normal, we just got to make sure we know our workarounds.
it's true. That's the case
Like,
with a lot of neurological conditions is just learning to live with them and in
we
spite of them, you know?
we just got to know our workarounds.
Yep. Let's learn how to accommodate for those things and
Exactly.
have as normal a life as you can.
Exactly. And so building off of that, like, what's the most helpful thing in managing all of this and, like, I don't know, knowing my workarounds, I guess. I think that's been the biggest thing. I think that's honestly been the biggest thing, is knowing what works for me and knowing what doesn't.
Yep. I mean, it makes you learn a lot about yourself that you wouldn't normally have to pay attention to as much, yeah?
It really is. Like, even what works for, like, one of my friends who has the same conditions that I do doesn't work, like, those things don't work for her that they work for me, and
Yep.
vice versa.
Mhm.
Like, something that works for her, like Gatorade has too much sugar for me, but works fine for her. And, like, something has too much salt for her, though it's great for me.
Yep.
Like, I mean, hey, some people juggle geese, you know?
It's true. So
But
when you were experiencing the first bits of epilepsy and all that stuff, did they consider surgery or anything like that, or
no, they gave me can't talk. They gave me Topamax, and I've been
okay.
on that for, oh, a very long time now, over a decade now.
Okay, so that's controlling the seizures then.
That was working for the seizures and the migraines for the most part.
Oh,
That
nice.
You know what? I hate it and I wanna get off of it, I'm not
Mm,
gonna lie, but it has gotten it got rid of the seizures, or bleh, it got rid of the migraines that were, like, every single day for the most part,
okay.
and, I've been doing pretty good.
Good, yeah.
I Yeah, yeah, and pardon me, am down to, I haven't had a seizure in 2 years,
Amazing. Good.
over 2 years.
Good.
A lot of that I will chalk up to, that's why, okay, and that's why I say that, college was a really crazy time, is because, real talk, this is the biggest reason why I say let's not cut off our nose to spite our faces when it comes to wanting to fit in and be normal, and or what society deems as normal, is because I worked myself so hard to fit in at a job that was part-time, while taking classes that were quarter time, and trying to do both so that I could be, the basic human, that I was having seizures, and I get psychogenic seizures too on top of that, which are even fun. Psychogenic seizures, by the way, are non-epileptic seizures, and they are often anxiety based, but they
Hmm.
are the um pardon me, but the effects are just as real as tonic clonics.
Wow, I hadn't heard of those before actually.
Psychogenic is the term for seizures that are not epileptic in nature.
Yeah, psychogenic things usually just mean like they
Yes.
come from within your mind. Like
Yes.
they aren't actually due to any physical source. It's your thinking that's
Yes.
doing it.
Very much. Okay, so if anybody tries to tell you that they are a that they are a stress seizure or anxiety seizure, please correct them and use psychogenic seizure instead. Politely correct them, but please just nudge them into using psychogenic instead, because that is the proper term,
Got
and
it.
it's kind of belittling, I feel, to use the term anxiety seizure or
Well,
anxiety attack instead,
why would you say that?
because it's actually not, it's not the right term.
Okay,
If you are having a seizure, you are not having an anxiety attack. Like,
true.
they're two different things. If you're having an anxiety attack, you're having an anxiety attack. If you're having a seizure that's psychogenic, you're having a seizure that's psychogenic.
Okay, makes sense.
And so
Is it?
it
Would you
kind of
say it's kind of
frustrates
along the
me.
same line as like somebody saying like they have OCD about like the way their bookshelf is made or something like that?
Yes.
Same kind of
Very
thing
much
where
so.
like it's not really
Very
getting to the heart of the problem and it's not doing it justice.
Very much so, and I feel
Okay,
like it kind of confuses the issue, because if you go to I and it just kind of bothers me. I had an old doctor that used to do that, and I have since left their practice, and since leaving their practice, I've gotten so much better care. Um, for years, while my, seizures were managed, and they were managed okay, they also didn't really believe that I had POTS, and they actually, like, told me to my face and yelled at me. They were like, "By the
damn
way,"
it.
they're like, "nobody's gonna take you seriously because you have anxiety on your diagnosis list." They're like, "But I'm going to write you a referral just because." They're like, "But nobody is going to listen to you."
Why the hell do
And
people get off saying that kind of shit, dude? I don't get
sh
it.
sure enough, I got referred. The cardiologist that, and this is why I had a really hard time if I wanted to knowing if I wanted to do this in a neurological sense or if a cardiac sense because a cardiologist sometimes catches POTS and sometimes a neurologist catches it because it affects the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
So the symptoms can pop up in either place and either doctor can catch it because the symptoms include syncope, fainting, dizziness, blood pressure issues, anything, basically anything that affects the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah. Or it could
So,
be affected by a sudden change in circulation as well.
yes. Or sometimes it's like even heart rate issues. So sometimes that's why, again, why the cardiologist catches it instead.
Yep.
But I'm like, listen, I'm like, I'm really like, I'm getting all these dizzy spells. I'm really not, I'm like, every time you guys change my meds, it's not doing anything. For years, they kept upping and downing, upping and downing, upping and downing my Topamax, and it wasn't doing anything. And they're like, well, if we have to up it again, we're gonna have to take you off this medication.
Okay.
So for decades, they like almost or over a decade at this point, they were upping and downing it. And no, it was almost a decade. Yeah. Up it,
Okay.
almost a decade, up it, ugh, tongue tied.
Take your time. No worries. It's
They
all
were
good.
changing my meds. And then they're like, okay, if we do this one more time, we're going to have to like take you off of this. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Find a different sort of
I'm like,
epileptic
I'm like,
medication. Yeah.
please. I'm like, just can we try checking for POTS instead? I'm like, I think it would help. And I'm like, plus I've just been diagnosed with this collagen disorder, Ehlers-Danlos. I'm like, the two have a tendency to run hand in hand.
Okay. It would make
They're
sense
like,
to check for the other if you have one then. Yeah.
he's like, fine, but nobody's going to take you seriously. Sure enough, he gave me a tilt table test, and the tilt table test came back negative,
Okay. Which means,
which meant really nothing. It just meant that the tilt table test was negative. Most people come back positive, but the cardiologist that I saw wanted me to wear a Holter test
so
and get
let's
a more
back up. Let's back
conclusive.
up for 1 second. A tilt table test would be where they have you laying on a table and then they'll stand it straight up and test for POTS that way.
Yes, it's where they put you
Okay.
on a table, and then they gradually move it back to watch how your blood pressure
Okay.
changes.
Got it. And let's go ahead and talk about why they would do that for POTS. First of all, let's
So
can you tell everybody what POTS is or what you would normally see in
yes,
POTS?
so POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It is a form of dysautonomia, which is a system of autonomic nervous system disorders. And in dysautonomia and autonomic nervous system disorders, you see things like basically, and I hate to be so vague, but you see things that affect the autonomic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. And why that is so vague is because they affect everybody a little bit differently.
Yep.
So I can have dizziness, you could have fainting.
Mm.
Um, Another person still could have digestion issues. And
Yep.
another person still like neon or Danatage could have all of them.
That's
And
true.
that would really suck.
It's for those of you who might have been here who haven't been here during the time we talked about the different branches of the nervous system or where the peripheral nervous system or the autonomic or nervous system would innervate. It could be things like your pupil constriction. It can be heart rate. It can be digestion rate. It can be there's something with it does something with your liver, but they're not exactly sure like what that controls just yet. It can be blood pressure. It could be all kinds of different things, and any of those could be affected in somebody with a disorder that's under the umbrella of the larger term dysautonomia. Which
Correct.
I have another friend in real life who has dysautonomia, and she has a completely different set of symptoms going on. So
Exactly.
it's
See?
just different for everybody.
Yeah,
And she
I
has the
have
same experience, like
yeah,
any sort of treatment or any sort of test or anything, it's all very vague because
yeah.
one is it's different for everybody, and two, they're just scratching the surface as to what causes it and what to do
Mhm.
about it. So
I have a friend, I have a convention friend who just found out that she very likely has the same collagen disorder that I have, and she just found out that she has postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Which, by the way, for anybody listening out there who has just recently come in, if you want any extra information out there, or like how the heck do I spell all these, or what are all those that you have been mentioning? I have posted links to all of these disorders that I've been talking about: Chiari malformation type 1, tonic-clonic seizures, SUDEP, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and abdominal migraines. They are all posted in the Discord, and I will be posting them to the pinned comment on my Twitter page as well.
Yep.
So thank
I'll
you
be
very
putting
much.
them in chat afterwards as well. And when this interview goes up on YouTube, I'll be putting those in the details as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of
But
course.
back to dysautonomia. Yeah, I have a convention friend who just found out that she has POTS, and she presents differently than I do. That's part of why we didn't know that, like, I didn't even think to tell her, by the way, you should look into this.
Yeah,
Like,
because it looks so different. You don't think like,
it
oh, it must
does.
be what I
Oh my
have.
God,
Like I
yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she made the joke. She calls it POTS because you're always on the pot when you have it.
Always sitting down, right? Got them.
Yeah, that's her joke. I can't take credit for that one.
I like it.
But
So yeah, they did the tilt table test that didn't come back, but they did
that
another test. You were
nope.
saying,
Yep, they didn't the tilt table test didn't do anything except give me, you guessed it, a migraine. So they had me wear a
yay!
my always my favorite.
Yes.
So they gave me a heart no, an event monitor. It was not a heart halter because that one's only 2 days. An event monitor is a month-long test
Okay.
where they put the electrodes on your chest and you gotta wear it and not get it wet for a month. And then
Yay.
you gotta yeah, that one's fun. But you gotta push the button whenever you do something like sit down or stand up or eat or lay down. So that way they
Yep.
have a good record of what you've been doing, and that way they have a good test of knowing, hey, if you're sitting, this is what your heart rate is, and when you're standing, this is what your heart rate is, and when you're laying down, this is what your heart rate is, and oh hey, if you're laying down and your heart rate's at 140, that's not normal.
Yeah. And something that people may not normally think about is when you're doing all those things, sitting, standing, eating, and all that, your heart rate should remain somewhat constant. But the thing is, with POTS, it doesn't. That's the problem. When you go from like laying down to standing or sitting to standing or something like that, your heart rate can shoot up to like very intense exercise levels for no apparent reason. You may also get dizzy or faint or things like that.
Hmm.
That's kind of the problem with that disorder is that your blood pressure isn't being maintained properly in between different positions of your body, going laying to standing, sitting, after eating and stuff like that. When a lot of blood's being drawn away from your extremities and other parts of your
Hmm.
body to your stomach to help digest food, stuff like that. All things that your autonomic nervous system should be monitoring and taking care of automatically, but in some cases it simply isn't.
That's one that a lot of people actually don't think about is eating. A lot of people don't think that eating affects people so much, but like eating is one of the worst ones because it just takes so much energy and so much extra. So many people, I don't know how many people I hear get so sleepy and just pass out like immediately after eating. And I'm talking like mid sentence, just bam.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, and that's like fainting, yeah. Because like
Yeah.
there's blood
Yeah.
pulled away from or too much blood pulled away from your brain,
Yep.
which again,
Yep.
your autonomic nervous system is supposed to be
Yep.
monitoring and making sure is stable.
Yep.
And if you don't have enough, you're gonna pass out.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
But that I mean, there's some of the things that I've heard that help that are either like, pardon me, like change in diet, or some people wear the thing for a little while was to wear like waist, not like waist cinchers, but like they have waist wraps that you can wear. So some people were wearing those. It kind of helps to push the blood outward. They're kind of like anti-compression or they're kind of like compression socks, but for your stomach.
Yeah, just something to kind of help squeeze the blood away from your core and out to your extremity and up to your head
Yep.
as well. Make sure
Yep.
maintain consciousness like you're supposed to.
Yep.
All that happy stuff.
Yep.
So you did that. So you did that that event monitor and
And I got had to wait for the results. Ironically enough, had a seizure on the way down to because we were staying with family at the time. Ironically enough, I had a seizure on the way down to visit where we were staying. uh, that was actually the last one I had though. So, fun fact.
That's good.
Um,
That's good. And you said that was 2 years ago?
yeah, that was 2 years ago, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Got it.
I was under an extreme amount of pressure though, because it was like that was like a really big heat wave back then.
Yeah,
And,
yikes.
yeah, and I was visiting family, and I was running on, like, 0 sleep, so
And waiting for test results, you know?
and waiting for, like, test results,
Yeah.
so
All
but
kinds of
they
different good stuff, yeah.
got test results back, they're like, "Yeah, you've got POTS." They're like, "We're never, like, really surprised, but you've got POTS."
Well, you know, take those results back to that first doctor and be like, "Look, fool."
I wanted to so bad, you
Sure,
have no
yeah,
idea.
good, honestly. It is the certain amount of know-it-all that comes along with some doctors. Some doctors are amazing, but some doctors has got that big old bunch of know-it-all sometimes, and like they don't always, you know. At the end of the day, doctors are still human, and we all make mistakes, you know.
They are, and that's why I actually went back to because it was like a two-person team, and I would alternate between them back and forth. I'm like, "Listen," I'm like, "I don't want the other person to get in trouble, and I don't want, like, actions to be taken or anything." I'm like, "But I also don't want anybody else to go through what I did and, like,
Yeah,
risk not speaking up." I'm like, "I just want them to know," I'm like,
yeah,
"Maybe don't do this again."
yeah. I want them to
I'm
learn, but I
like
don't want them to get in
I'm
trouble. But
like
I want them to learn from
I'm
this.
like, "Just know that," I'm like, "if I felt this way, chances are," I'm like, "somebody else felt this way."
Yeah, and honestly, like patients should never be concerned or discouraged from
Yeah,
going and getting a second or third
yeah.
or fourth opinion. Like if
Well,
you know in your gut something's going on, like
yeah.
go ask someone else. Please do that.
And that's the worst part is, like, I had been discouraged from getting a second opinion so many times from that office. I had asked multiple times because they only dealt with epilepsy specifically at that office, specifically just epilepsy. And I mean, you've seen the laundry list. We've talked about the laundry list of stuff in here, like, of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I get maybe a neurologist referral? Because I'm like, I've got some other stuff going on." And they're like, "No, no, no, we don't do that here." I'm like, "Okay, well then can we talk about my other stuff?" And they're like, "No, no, no, there's no need to do that." I'm like, "But I kind of don't feel like I'm getting the best care here." They're like, "No, no, no, it's fine." I'm like,
No, it's not fine,
um,
actually.
I'm like, "I'd kind of like to go to another office." It wasn't until I actually told them that I was considering surgery for my Chiari malformation. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I totally wasn't.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it wasn't until I thought that I was, like, considering my surgery for my Chiari malformation that they were like, "Okay, cool, we'll
Yeah. Oh,
totally
you
send you
want
somewhere
surgery? Yeah, we'll
else."
send you somewhere else. It's fine. Yeah, you can go.
Yeah.
You can go do the hard stuff somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "We'll totally give you a referral," but that was jumping through hoops because, like, the doctor that I was talking to at the time ended up practicing, like, at a bunch of different places. I guess he was trying to, like, make his brand known or something.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so, like I don't know, I guess he was trying to, like, get his brand out there,
I
and
guess.
I I didn't I thought only streamers did that, I didn't know
I thought
doctors
so
did
too. I
that
mean,
too.
he could just do like a charity event or something or get on social
I
media. I mean,
I didn't know doctors were about that life, but he was, I guess, at the time trying to get his brand out there and was everywhere, and so it made it really, really impossible for me to try and, like, get away from him because nobody else wanted to take me because they're like, "Well, if we take you, we'll be under, like, a compete issue." And they're like, "You're his patient too, so we can't take you still." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Sorry. Wow. Sorry, no, this other doctor already has claim to you. We can't
No,
serve
yeah.
you too. Sorry. It shouldn't come down to that. Like, who's going to serve you the best? Who is the best equipped
Yeah,
to serve you?
that's all I want, like,
Or that's
the
all
some
you
of the
want.
shit
Yeah.
some of the shit I have heard in, like, the medical world, though, like, one time I couldn't get my medical records from a doctor's office because they're like, "We don't have the authority to give you those."
Sorry, what?
That was literally what I was told was, "Your doctor has to request those for you."
Yeah. No, I get that sometimes. Like, doctor has to, yeah, it has to go through the doctor. Yeah. Yeah. I hear that sometimes. I get that. But,
I'm
so
pretty sure they're full of it, but
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if sometimes that's the case. Yeah. They just they don't necessarily want to order things that'll cost them money or cost the insurance company money. Or it comes down to money. It does, and it shouldn't. People's care shouldn't come down to that. Same with ambulance rides. Same with testing. Same with surgeries. Same with just treatment in general. It shouldn't come down to that. So So yeah, you have that's done. They came back with the POTS
Heck
diagnosis,
yep.
and after that,
I managed. I was almost like, yeah, no, I was totally fine, totally cured. No,
yeah, totally, and
they
everything was fine. Yeah,
happily ever after.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
I went back to the cardiologist that I had gotten everything from the cardiologist that I had gotten everything, all the testing done through. And they're like, "Oh yeah, totally got that. And here, let's get you on some medication and then just like check in with us every so often."
Okay,
And that was that. And sure enough, guess what? After I got the cardiology, like the medicine from the cardiologist, guess what? No more of those small air quote seizures that
what?
everybody had been trying to take care of since I was like, 15.
Hmm. It's almost like somebody paid attention to you and like gave you some care and like treated the real underlying issues, and you were okay after that, or better after that.
It's almost like I had been trying to tell everybody all along those seizures that which and here's the bugged me the frickin' most. Like they had done an electro EEG because or a, not an electro EEG, but like a video EEG when I
Yeah.
was a teenager, when I was like a senior or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. That was a real fuzzy time. But they had done that when I was older, and they're like, "By the way," they're like, "We know these aren't seizures." Because they made me do the thing where you push a button and they're like, "Hey, every time you feel like you're having a seizure, push the button." And so I
Okay.
pushed the button and they saw me having they're like, "We see you on the video." They're like, "By the way, we see these, but you're not registering any like neurological activity. So
Yeah.
we don't know what these are."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, but by the way, we do know that you're having tonic-clonic seizures, and we know they take place in your frontal lobe. Fun fact." They're like, "Good luck. Peace."
Yeah. Anybody that's hung around the channel knows frontal lobes are kind of an important bit. That's
Yeah, they are.
what makes humans human, really.
Yep.
So yeah, that if they were considering surgery, they probably stopped considering surgery somewhere around that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
They're like they're like, "Well, good luck. Peace."
Yeah.
And they're like, "We don't know what's causing those, but eh." And they just
but
kinda kept
totally.
they kind of just, like, kept upping my meds from there, and, like, even though they knew it wasn't seizures, they kinda just kept upping my meds, and that's what pissed me off the most. And I'm like, "Oh, gee, it's almost like I had been saying it wasn't seizures all along.
Hmm.
Go figure."
It's almost like patients know something about what's going on with their condition sometimes, and maybe you should listen to them once in a while. Just saying.
Uh,
Yikes. I'm sorry you went through
yeah.
that. And it
I
sounds like
mean,
you have a better handle on it now, though.
I'm at a point now where I can laugh about it. Like, I've had, a long time to, like, laugh about it. When I was in high school, I was a wreck.
I'm
I
sure,
was
yeah.
miserable. I spent a lot of high school emo years crying over it, and, I mean, when I was in elementary school, which is where a lot of that popped up, like, I didn't know what was going on. I was just the, like and that's okay, and that's one of the things that I do wanna talk about, like, if you by the way, if you are I know probably nobody on here is gonna be a young kid, at least I hope you're not, and if you are, I don't wanna know about it. But if you have a kid who has all of these things going on, like, please tell them they're normal. Like, please love them and hug them like they're normal and, like, don't treat
Yes,
them like
please.
they're a freak.
Yep.
Like, I got treated like I was a freak because for whatever reason, when I have, like, POTS spells, like syncope spells, like the muscles in my throat like to go lax because yay, collagen disorders are really a funky, weird disorder group.
Indeed.
And so I sound like a little creaky balloon sometimes if I'm not on top of my game. And my
Okay.
mom would when we were at the movie theater, if I was doing that, like if I wasn't like on top of my game while watching the movie,
Yeah,
she would
yeah.
glare at me. She would like look at
Sorry.
me and give me the biggest death glare. And, like, she used to treat me like I was doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
And, like, she'd do the same thing in public too. And, like,
yeah.
I don't know, I can't help it. And, like, same thing with the kids at school. Like, they'd look at me like I was, I don't know, like Lydia from Beetlejuice, which now is awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
But,
That's in
like,
style now, but it wasn't,
that's in
yeah.
style now, but, like, in 2000 whatever, that was not cool.
Yeah, and just with little like ticks and abnormalities and annoyances
Yeah.
like that, it's super easy to just like unfortunately be
Yeah.
annoyed with the person and think that they're
Yeah.
doing it on purpose or like you can stop that
Exactly.
if you want to and like, well,
Exactly.
I
Like,
don't
and the
get
other
you don't get to just like be in like in your normal state of being and just have things be silent and typical, you know?
well, and
Like
that doesn't
when you relax, your throat does that.
yeah, well, and when I relax, like, all of my joints go out of place too, like, that's a whole 'nother can of worms, though.
Yep.
But,
Okay.
like, that's a whole 'nother can of beans.
Mm.
But, like, I mean, it doesn't help that, like, the doctors didn't know what was going on. Like, they took me to, like, a kitty therapist because, like, they thought that that was what the doctors at the hospital told them to do. And so they were like, "Hey, by the way, she's totally doing this for attention." Like, and the
Motherfuckers.
like well, yeah,
God
I mean,
damn it.
like, that's what they did. They didn't know what I was like, they didn't know what POTS was back then. I mean, they barely know what POTS is now.
Yeah,
They barely understand dysautonomia now.
exactly.
But,
Yeah.
like so they're like, "By the way, she's hyperventilating and she's doing it for attention." By the way,
Perfect.
hyperventilating just for attention is or hyperventilating, just for clarification, is where the kids, like it's that, like if you've ever seen a kid, like, with snot running down their face and they, like, start sniffing really, really fast, like,
Mhm.
stop it, that's hyperventilating, the
Except you can't stop it.
except you can't stop it.
Yeah, not till your body says you're ready to stop
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes. But apparently I was doing it on purpose and could control it and was doing it for attention.
So guess what
So
parents might have done is you get
so
annoyed or mad at you when you're doing that, which totally helps.
yes. So my mother, like, she was trying. She really, honest to goodness, she was trying. She was at her wit's end though.
I'm glad you believe that. Yeah, that's good.
Like she back then she was like she really was trying.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah,
Like,
that's
but she didn't know what else to try though. But like she
and in
thought
that
I was doing
situation, yeah, in that situation though, like in that situation where that kind of thing's happening, like nobody wants that to be happening. Least of all the kid, but like it's uncomfortable for everybody, and everybody kind of gets to their wits end with that kind of thing, like you're saying. But
yeah.
it just comes back to like you gotta like if the person that's happening to could stop that, they would stop that. You know, it's
Oh
not
god, yeah.
like they're not doing it on purpose. They don't choose to be that way. They didn't go down to Walmart and pick up some of those things at the store. I guess I'll try these symptoms out and see how everybody likes it. Let's just do that. See how it works for a while. Like no, like they don't choose to
This
be
one will
that
get me
way.
popular. These gaggle of symptoms, these would totally
Yeah,
get me popular.
these
I'll
are giving me
totally do it.
the attention that I want. What if I just start
Oh yeah.
hyperventilating?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like no,
I
people aren't
by
doing
the
that on
way,
purpose.
I never hyperventilated, just for the record. They just couldn't figure out what the heck was wrong with me. I
Yeah,
did totally pass out at one point in class. Like, but yeah, totally did that on purpose.
but for
Totally wanted to
attention.
pass
Yeah, for
totally
attention.
wanted to pass out. Oh yeah, totally got the attention I wanted when everybody started calling me like the weirdo that passed out and started writing their like when we had to do creative writing assignments, when everybody totally wrote their creative writing assignment about me, the
What
weirdo
the
that passed
hell?
out in class.
Fucking kids are such assholes sometimes.
Like,
God.
dude, like 9-year-old and 8-year-olds are like brutal. Like
They really are. They really are. They don't know they're doing it. They don't know how rude they're being sometimes. They
I
simply don't.
know,
They
I
simply
know.
don't get it. Oh, kids.
Yeah. I mean, I can laugh about it now at least. But like, man, when I was like 9 and 10, like that shit cut deep.
It does, and that doesn't really that doesn't really
I
it's
know.
good that you can laugh about it now, but, like, a lot of people can't, like, it doesn't go away,
I
you know?
know. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've learned now that if you don't like if I can't laugh about it, that like it's just gonna make me miserable because like I don't I don't get less weird. I just get weirder.
That's how it goes. It's gonna be that way.
So I might as well learn to like accept it.
Yeah.
So
So, during this last bit, do you wanna tell us a little bit about any foundations that you're a fan of or work with or, think you're doing an amazing job or anything like that, or
I sounds terrible. I actually like I don't really know that I've worked with any foundations.
Oh gosh,
I
sorry, I
have
thought you said that there were I'm sorry, I thought you mentioned that there were some. My bad, I wouldn't even
there
prompted that
no,
question.
no, you're fine. I actually like I haven't worked with I did work with Epilepsy Foundation. It's just not in a very, very long time. They do good work though. Um, they aren't neurologically based. this next one that I'm about to talk about. The Epilepsy Foundation is totally neurologically based. Just a heads up. Don't want anybody like misreading that broken thought process.
Yeah,
Um,
Epilepsy Foundation definitely involved in neuroscience.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, and they're actually like they're really good. Like they, by the way, like I'm gonna talk about them for a second because they're really cool.
Please do it.
Um, they're like they're really cool. They do like relays for epilepsy and stuff, and I can't remember if it's the UK branch or if it's the US branch, but I know that they try to get info out there whenever there is an update about different or expanded versions of epilepsy, and I know that it was from them that I learned that there are at least 40 different kinds of epilepsy now.
Yeah, they're just
So,
figuring out how to further subdivide that and make it
yeah.
more unique for every
Yeah.
person. Yeah,
Yeah, so they're pretty darn awesome.
good.
Um, but I like them. This next one that I'm about to talk about, they are not neurologically based, so I don't want anybody to be misled when I talk about them. But the Ehlers-Danlos Foundation, or Ehlers-Danlos Society, my mistake. That is Ehlers-Danlos Society. They are a um, collagen disorder based. And I like them because they do a lot of good work and a lot of research in EDS, which is what I have. It is one of the other things that is not neurologically based, but we all know that you can't have anatomy without physiology and vice versa. You can't have one without affecting the other.
Yeah, yeah. It may not
And
be quote unquote neurologically
yeah.
based, but it's okay to talk about. It's fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't, but that's where that's my stance and kind of when it comes to health in general is that you can't have the physicality without the motion and the everything of it. And so, I mean, my mom kind of raised me that way. And when I
Yeah.
was learning, which is if you want a real ironic story, I missed my AMP class. I missed this is always my favorite story, but I missed the dissection of the brain in class because I had a neurology appointment that day.
I mean, yeah.
um,
You can't have a body without a brain, and you can't. I mean, you can have a brain without a body, but it's not going to get you very far.
exactly,
So yeah, they
exactly.
do kind of go hand in hand. So.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So those are a couple of organizations, and awesome. Did that kind of bring us up to present day with you then, or do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I genuinely, I think that's about everything. Um, there was probably always more. I probably always forget something, genuinely. Like my brain
Okay,
is a mishmash of brain fog and broken like
it's okay.
links. But
It's okay. No worries.
but hey,
Let's say you enlightened everybody here at least a little bit today. Everybody learned
I
today.
you know what?
So
I hope everybody learned at least a little bit of something. If you didn't, okay, and this is what I'd like to end it on.
go ahead.
If you didn't learn something and there is more you wanted to learn, you can always feel free to like shoot me a like just shoot me a tweet on like Twitter or like hey, I forgot something, I wanted to learn this, or just please don't stalk me on Twitter. That's not cool. But follow me on Twitter for shit and I will unintentionally, unaccidentally usually post stuff about medical whatnot because it's what I do. There's usually cats there too and gaming stuff, but a lot of medical stuff. So, but hey, you can always it's the same thing I like to tell a lot of my friends. Um, is hey, if you have a question about like medical stuff, please feel free to ask me. Like, especially any of these issues. Like, if it's something I don't know specifically, I will try my best to get you in touch with somebody who does know more than me.
I absolutely believe that, and I think you're a wealth of knowledge for these kind of things for sure. I definitely learned something today, and I know everybody else here did too. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
All right then. I didn't see any questions from chat that we didn't already answer. So yeah. Unless there was something else
Awesome.
you wanted to add there at the end, which I think you said that's how you wanted to end it. So I think you're good there.
Awesome.
We'll go ahead and say thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
Definitely. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Siren. I appreciate you. We'll see you next time.